Florida's real estate market is imploding, and Governor Ron DeSantis just exposed why. What he said in a closed-door meeting with Florida's top builders reveals a massive problem no one's reporting. The headlines say, it's simple. Prices got too high, buyers vanished, and the market crashed. But that's not the truth. What's unfolding in Florida right now isn't a collapse of prices. It's a collapse of trust. Leaked notes from that meeting expose a system cracking from the inside out. Developers scrambling, insurers fleeing, and homeowners trapped in houses they can't sell and can't afford to keep. So what really turned Florida's housing dream into a financial nightmare? And more importantly, if you already own property here or were thinking of buying, what should you do next? Let's start with the one thing no one's talking about: the moment Florida's population boom turned into a cliff dive. For years, Florida was the promised land. No income tax, warm weather, and booming development, a magnet for retirees, remote workers, and investors. Between 2020 and 2022, over 314,000 people packed up and moved to the Sunshine State, pushing home prices up 51%, faster than almost anywhere in America. But then, the flow stopped. In 2024, that number plunged to just 64,000 new arrivals. That's not a slowdown, that's a free fall. A 75% drop in migration, the sharpest reversal in modern Florida history. Tampa's population growth collapsed by nearly 70%, falling from 34,000 to just over 10,000 newcomers. Orlando? Flat. And Miami, once the gateway to America, lost 101,000 domestic residents in a single year, replaced mostly by foreign buyers chasing investment visas and beachfront rentals. The result? A market completely out of balance, wealthy investors buying luxury condos while working-class families pack up and head north. Georgia, the Carolinas, Tennessee, and Texas now absorb almost half of all mortgage applications from people fleeing Florida. The same people who once fueled its boom are now funding its decline. And this is just the first domino. Because when the people who drive your economy start leaving, everything else begins to break, from home sales to insurance to trust in the system itself. But what forced them out isn't just cost of living. It's something far more expensive and far more terrifying. Next, we dive into the insurance crisis that's turning Florida home ownership into a financial death trap. Picture this. You finally find your dream home in Tampa. 3 bedrooms, quiet street, palm trees swaying out front. The price tag? $500,000. Manageable, right? Then the email comes in. Your homeowner's insurance quote, $11,159 per year. That's nearly $1,000 every month before you even turn on a light. Florida now has the most expensive homeowners insurance in America, and it's not even close. The national average sits around $2,100, but in Florida, it's more than 24% higher, and that's just the average. Along the coast, premiums regularly blow past $10,000 to $12,000 a year. And here's the real gut punch. Even at those prices, you might not get covered at all. Progressive, gone, Farmers, pulled out. Dozens of companies have either fled the state or slashed coverage after hurricanes Ian, Helen, Saj, and Milton caused over $13 billion in damage. If you're lucky enough to find an insurer still writing policies, they'll hit you with demands that feel like ransom notes. Replace your roof first. That's another $25,000 out of pocket before they'll even consider you. No insurance, no mortgage. And that means deals die instantly. Even cash buyers are walking away, because in Florida, one storm can wipe out everything you own overnight. But here's where things take a surprising turn, straight from that leaked DeSantis meeting. While most people think the insurance crisis is spiraling out of control, the truth is, something remarkable is quietly happening behind the scenes. Since 2023, more than 30 insurance carriers have returned to the Florida market. Citizens Insurance, the state's last resort provider, has dropped from 1.4 million policies to under 1 million as private companies slowly re-enter. Some barrier island homes have seen rate cuts up to 25%, and inland areas are down 10%. The pros already know this. The average buyer doesn't, and that gap between what the insiders know and what the public fears is exactly where opportunity lives. Because while everyone else is panicking, the smart money is already moving. But insurance? That's just the first domino. The next crisis, the one hiding in plain sight, is forcing thousands of Floridians to walk away from homes they already own. So, let's say you survive the insurance gauntlet. You've got your coverage. You've got your mortgage. You're finally in your Florida home. Then the next letter arrives from your HOA, and suddenly, you realize the real problem wasn't the hurricane. It's the fees. Across Florida, HOA costs have exploded. In 2025 alone, Tampa's fees jumped 17%, Orlando 16.7%, and Fort Lauderdale 16.2%. But that's just the average. Older condos, the ones built before 2005, are being hit like never before. Here's why. After the Surfside condo collapse in 2021, Florida passed Senate Bill 4D, a law forcing structural inspections and reserve funding by the end of 2024. It sounds good on paper: safety, accountability, prevention. But for homeowners, it's financial shock therapy. Special assessments are landing like sledgehammers: $50,000, $80,000, even $100,000 per unit due immediately. In Orlando's Regency Gardens, residents were billed up to $22,000 each, while their monthly fees nearly tripled overnight. In Miami Beach, one owner saw her dues jump from $400 to $200, plus a $75,000 repair bill. These aren't rare cases. This is happening statewide, affecting nearly 1 million condo owners. Then there's the newer trap: CDD fees, Community Development District fees, in freshly built subdivisions. Another $200 to $300 a month, buried deep in the fine print. So when people say Florida's still affordable, they're looking at sticker prices, not reality. Because in this state, it's not the home that bankrupts you. It's everything that comes after the closing. And here's the part that should make every homeowner nervous. Those rising fees aren't temporary. They're structural. They'll keep climbing long after the headlines move on. But buried underneath all this chaos is a problem that's far worse and far more dangerous. The very homes built during Florida's pandemic boom are starting to fall apart. And for many, the clock to fix it is already running out. Here's where things go from bad to dangerous. During Florida's pandemic housing boom, between 2020 and 2022, builders couldn't keep up. Homes were flying off the market before the concrete even dried. Everyone wanted in: families, investors, out-of-state buyers. And developers answered the call. They built fast, too fast. Now those same homes are starting to crack, literally. Across the state, inspectors are finding foundation fractures, water intrusion, mold, and roof failures in houses barely 3 years old. And that's not an exaggeration. These aren't aging properties. They're brand new homes built during the frenzy. But here's where it gets really ugly. In 2023, Florida quietly shortened the window for construction defect lawsuits from 10 years to 7. Why? Because the courts were drowning in claims. The timing couldn't be worse. Homes built in 2020, 2021, and 2022 now have just 5 to 6 years left for owners to discover and file legal action for major structural defects. If they miss that window, they're stuck. No warranty, no coverage, no recourse. In one Central Florida subdivision, homeowners discovered cracks so severe that engineers ordered complete remediation, while people were still living inside. The builder paid out roughly $80,000 per homeowner to settle quietly. That's one community. There are hundreds more just like it. This isn't a conspiracy theory. It's an open secret among contractors, insurers, and real estate insiders. And it's spreading fast. Every week, more subdivisions built during the pandemic are reporting problems. Poor drainage, uneven slabs, electrical shortcuts, all byproducts of a market that valued speed over stability. For anyone thinking about buying a Florida home built between 2020 and 2022, this is your red flag. Because by the time you notice the cracks, the legal clock might have already expired. And if you think this is bad, wait until you see the numbers that prove just how deep Florida's housing freeze really goes. By early 2025, Florida's housing market stopped behaving like a market at all. It didn't crash, it froze. Inventory exploded by 375% since 2022. More than 172,000 homes now sit unsold across the state, up nearly 23% year over year. That's almost 8 months of supply, levels we haven't seen since 2006. But here's the thing, this isn't like 2008. There's no flood of foreclosures, no bank liquidation panic. This is something new. A silent standoff between buyers and sellers, each waiting for the other to blink first. Sellers refuse to cut prices. Buyers refuse to overpay. Everyone's holding their breath, waiting for a signal that never comes. In August of 2025, listings surged 60% year over year, while active sales grew just 18%. Translation? People are pulling homes off the market rather than accept insult offers. They'd rather sit and wait, even if that wait lasts years. Meanwhile, buyers have gone on strike, not because they can't afford homes, but because they've lost faith in the system. Ask yourself, why would anyone pay $500,000 for a house that might need a new roof next year, cost $12,000 to insure, charge $600 a month in HOA fees, and might still have hidden construction defects baked into the foundation? They won't, and they aren't. Median closed prices across Florida now hover around $488,000, slightly down, less than 1% year over year. On paper, it looks stable, but inside the numbers, it's a deep freeze. Closings fell 11.7% quarter over quarter, and that's the part that's terrifying Tallahassee. According to leaked notes from Governor DeSantis' private meeting, he told industry leaders point blank, "We're not facing a market correction, we're facing a trust collapse." That's the first time in decades a Florida governor publicly acknowledged that the state's real estate confidence, its heartbeat, has stopped. He admitted the infrastructure couldn't keep up, insurance reforms came too late, and building standards were ignored in the frenzy. Now the whole machine is paying the price. But what came next in that meeting shocked everyone in the room. Because DeSantis didn't just describe the problem, he revealed something much darker and far more urgent. Behind closed doors, the tone was different. No podium, no cameras. Just Governor Ron DeSantis, a handful of state economists, and Florida's biggest real estate players, all in one room, facing numbers no one wanted to say out loud. The leaked transcript from that meeting paints a picture of quiet panic. DeSantis admitted what the headlines won't. Florida isn't battling a market correction. It's battling a collapse of confidence. He told the group, quote, "Florida's rapid growth wasn't managed properly. The infrastructure couldn't keep up. Insurance reforms came too late. Building standards weren't enforced strictly enough during the boom. And now the state is paying the price." According to attendees, he didn't sound defensive. He sounded worried. And he had reason to be. The governor's internal team now projects that Florida could lose another $100,000 to 150,000 residents over the next 18 months if current trends continue. That's on top of the hundreds of thousands already gone. That kind of exodus doesn't just hurt real estate. It cuts tax revenue, weakens local governments, and threatens Florida's national reputation as the land of prosperity and low taxes. One industry leader in the room reportedly warned DeSantis directly, "If we don't fix the insurance and HOA crisis in the next 12 months, we're staring down a decade-long recovery." And here's where it gets interesting, because buried in that same leaked meeting Among the panic, the warnings, and the projections was something no one expected. A sign of quiet optimism. A roadmap? While the public sees chaos, the insiders see a setup. The same setup that happens right before a market correction flips into a once-in-a-decade buying opportunity. The question is, who's preparing for it? Because what DeSantis' team said next reveals that the smart money already is. While the public panics, the pros are already positioning. Because here's the truth buried in those leaked DeSantis notes. Florida's not dead, it's resetting. Institutional investors, the same ones who flooded the state during the 2021 buying frenzy, have pulled back by nearly 90% since their peak. But that's not retreat, that's strategy. They're waiting for the floor. They know once fear peaks, prices settle, and the insurance reforms kick in. That's when the real buying begins. Builders see it too. Instead of slashing prices and tanking comps, they're quietly converting entire subdivisions into rentals, holding inventory, preserving value, and waiting for stability. Even Lenner's CEO admitted publicly, Florida buyers need more help than anywhere else. Translation? Builders are taking short-term losses to protect long-term margins. Meanwhile, the same reforms that caused the chaos are already working behind the scenes. Florida's 2023 insurance overhaul cut 79% of national litigation, even though Florida represented only 9% of claims. That's massive. It's freeing up insurers to re-enter the market, and some already have. DeSantis' team believes the storm is passing. Their projections? Market stabilization by late 2026 to early 2027, assuming no major hurricanes and continued reform momentum. To insiders, that's not bad news. It's a clock, a countdown to the next bull run, because history doesn't repeat itself perfectly, but it sure rhymes. After the 2008 crash, those who bought when everyone else was terrified made generational wealth. And if this cycle follows the same pattern, we're right back at that doorstep again. Florida isn't collapsing, it's compressing. And once that pressure releases, the rebound will be fast, loud, and brutal for anyone who wasn't paying attention. But here's the question no one's asking. Is Florida just the beginning? Because the same warning signs now flickering across the Sunshine State are starting to appear in Texas, Arizona, and the Carolinas, the very places where Floridians are fleeing. Every housing cycle tells a story, and Florida's story has always run ahead of the rest of the country, the first to rise, the first to crash, the first to rebuild. What's happening now isn't the end of Florida's dream. It's the mirror of America's reality. Texas is showing the same inventory spikes Florida saw 2 years ago. Arizona's home prices are slipping, construction quality questions are rising, and migration patterns are flattening. Even the Carolinas, once the affordable alternatives, are flashing warning signs: high insurance rates, HOA chaos, and infrastructure strain. It's a chain reaction. The same one that started in California 15 years ago crept across the map and ended right here, in the Sunshine State. But here's the part history never changes. When fear reaches its loudest, opportunity hides right underneath it. Florida isn't doomed. It's first to feel the pain, first to reset, and first to rise again. The people who truly understand what's happening, the ones watching data instead of drama, aren't panicking. They're waiting, because they know markets don't crash forever. They rebuild. And when they do, those who stayed calm, those who studied the numbers instead of the noise, are the ones who walk away with everything. So if you own in Florida, don't panic, sell. And if you're looking to buy, don't rush. Wait for the right signals. When inventory peaks and drops for 3 consecutive months, when Citizens insurance policies fall below 1 million, when more private carriers re-enter, when builders stop discounting and start expanding again. Those aren't random numbers. They're the same signals that preceded the recovery last time. This isn't 2008. It's not a housing crash. It's a trust correction, and once that trust resets, the next opportunity wave begins. The question is, will you recognize it when it comes? Or will you look back 3 years from now and realize the fortune you could have made if you hadn't been afraid to see past the panic? Because in markets like this, fear doesn't just destroy wealth, it transfers it. And right now, that transfer has already begun. If you've made it this far, you're already ahead of most. The headlines are chaos, but the data tells a story of a system rebalancing itself. Painfully, but necessarily. Florida is the first to break and the first to heal. So, stay grounded, stay alert. And when the dust settles, remember, the biggest fortunes are made when everyone else stops looking. Don't forget to subscribe, because the next chapter of this story is already being written.